everybody, Worm Racer 08 here. Back with another jQuery tutorial. This one is, we're going to revisit the tutorial I did here, image slideshow with jQuery transitions. This was like a 3-part series I think I did with some different transitions. Had a fella ask me here in the comments, said he had an image rotator that he wanted to make it automatic so that it just ran whenever the page loaded, and I told him I'd try to get a tutorial out on that. So this is going to be that tutorial. This one's not going to be near as fancy as the original one I did. It's going to be more quick and dirty, just to show you how to fade the images in and out. So let's get started. Got Dreamweaver here, and before we start writing our code, I went ahead and this is my project folder. I named it Slideshow Fade, and in it I just have a folder that I went ahead and made the images I'm going to use for this. These are all 960 by 375, I think, so they're a little bit big, but you could use this, the mechanics of this, for like a rotating header graphic or something like that. But anyway, we just got one folder with an images folder, and we're getting ready to write our code. So let's get into Dreamweaver and let's create a new HTML document. Alright, well, let's see, the first thing we're going to do here is we're going to get a wrapper element so that we can center this thing and it's going to hold our picture. So let's create a div here, give it an ID with the name of wrap. Skip down, let's close that div off. And in that div, we're going to add our images. So I'm going to grab this code that I wrote already real quick, and we'll paste it in here, and then we'll talk about it. So let me paste that in. Alright, so here's the 5 images that I showed you previously, and they're just sitting here inside of this div, and I've assigned a class of isShowing to the very first image, and we're going to define those CSS styles. But before we do that, let's go ahead and get some of the essentials that we've got to have to make this work, which is going to be the jQuery library. So if you've watched my videos in the past, you've seen me do this before, but I rarely ever host a file myself. I usually just get it from Google. So let's see here, let's run over to Google and grab that, and here's the URL if you don't know it already. You can run over here, and they always keep the latest version of jQuery, the minified version, or any of them. And we'll just copy this path here, and then we'll jump back into Dreamweaver, and right underneath the title, let's well, you know what, let's stick this down here right before the closing body tag. Let's go to Insert, HTML, Script Objects, Script, and paste that link in right there, and there you have it. Alright, so we've got our jQuery library. Alright, well, let's define our style here for this let's define some stuff for the ID of wrap, and also for this class here. So let's see here, let's highlight this element. Let me open this properties inspector here. What have we got? Alright. Okay, sorry, I lost my properties inspector. If yours isn't showing, go to Window, Properties, and you can open it back up. Let's go ahead and save this file. Get that out of the way. So let's navigate to this folder here, which I put mine on the desktop, and we called it Slideshow Fade. Here it is. We'll save it in the root of this, called index.html. Alright, so now it's saved. Alright, now so let's click on this div and let's define some properties for this div. So we'll click over here on this new CSS rule, and we're going to define it within the document. We're not going to have much, so we don't need an external style sheet. Alright, let's click OK. Alright, so let's see here. I want this thing centered in the window, so we'll give it a top margin of 0, an auto for the left or the right margin, a 0 for the bottom, and an auto for the left margin as well. And we can apply that, and then let's see, we're going to need to set the overflow on this to hidden, and I'll show you why. Well, let's define its width and height. So its width, as I said, was going to be 960. So you're going to want yours to be the width of your pictures and the height as well, and mine are 960 by 375. So we'll apply that and say OK, and then let's preview this in the browser, and I'll show you why we need to set the overflow to hidden. Yep, we want to save our changes, and let's bring up Internet Explorer here and see what we got. Okay, yeah. So now we've got our 5 images all on top of each other. Well, that's not what we want. We want them to be stacked on top of each other. Alright, so let's go back into Dreamweaver, and we'll set the overflow to hidden. And let's refresh that, and let's preview it again. See what we got. Of course, we need to save our changes. Alright, there, that's more like it. So we've just got one image showing. Alright, I'm just going to leave that up in case we need to refresh. Alright, so back into Dreamweaver. So we've got our style defined for our wrap element. We've hidden the pictures that we don't want to show. Now we need to create a style for all the images. We need to display them as none. We don't want them shown, even though they're hidden, because we got them stacked on each other. We want to hide them with CSS so that we can fade them in and fade the other one out. So let's say wrap, and then all the child images within the wrap container, we're going to set the display, oops, that's not display, to none. Alright, and then let's define our is showing style. Lost my train of thought there. Okay, wrap, the class of is showing, we're going to set its display property to inline. Alright, and that'll allow us to fade the images in and out. So let's refresh our CSS. Go ahead and save this. Alright, and then I guess the only thing we have left now is to write some JavaScript. We use jQuery, and there's not much of it. So I guess I should have showed you guys this in the beginning of the video. I guess it's not too late. It's a working demo of the finished project. This is it here. So we've got the images fades in and fades out, and then the next one fades in. So, and then I have a timer. I think I've got this set to 5 seconds, so I might want to slow it down or speed it up or whatever. Let's go ahead and write this code. Not much left. So right under where we've included the jQuery library, insert HTML, script objects, script. And we won't fill in any of this stuff. Just click OK. That'll give us our script tags here. I'm going to delete this blank line. And inside of our script tags, we've got to wait till the document's loaded. Everybody, we always know that when we're working with jQuery. We always want to wait till the document's loaded before we do anything. So we say $, which is the shorthand for jQuery. You could write it like that, or like this. Oops, E-R-Y, jQuery. We'll just use the $. Makes it much quicker. Document, dot ready, and we'll use a callback, or we'll use an anonymous function here. fun anonymous function, and inside of this, let's see here. First, we need to close this function. Let's go ahead and close off our tags here, our braces. So we got our curly brace. Everything's closed off. Great. Now inside of here, what we're going to do? Well, we're going to call an external function that we're going to define, and I've called this function slideshow. I know, unique, right? Alright. So when the document's loaded, it's going to call this function. Well, right now nothing's going to happen because we haven't defined that function. So right outside of our closing semicolon for the document.ready, we're going to define this function. So let's skip down a couple lines here, and let's say function slideshow, opening brace, couple lines, closing brace, and then within this slideshow, what are we going to do? Well, let's get a couple variables going here. So our first variable is going to be called showing, and this is going to keep track of which image currently has the class of is showing. So we'll make that equal to jQuery. We need jQuery to go find the elements on the page that are in the that have an ID of wrap that are within the ID of wrap that have a class of is showing. Right? Yep. Okay, and then let's see. We need another variable. We're gonna for our next image that we're gonna keep, so that we know what our next image is going to be, because there's only 5 images. So when we get to the end, we've got to know we need to go back to the beginning, right? Alright, so next is going to be, I'm going to write this shorthand, but I will put a note. Actually, I'll just paste the code in here in a minute and explain this. We could do this with an if-else statement, but when we do it with the ternary operator, it's so much quicker. There's one line of code. So I'm going to write it like that and explain it, and then I'll put the note in there, and we'll talk about it, how it compares. So variable next is going to be equal to our showing variable that we just defined, dot next, which is going to be the next element, dot length. Okay, now this is what you would typically have inside your if statement. So if this evaluates to true, then our showing variable, the next element, is going to, that's what it's going to be equal to, sorry. Yeah. Else, the colon represents the else portion of a if-else statement. The showing dot parent dot children, but the first child. Yeah? Okay. We'll explain this. So let me grab this code and paste it in here so that we can compare it at the same time. And this is going to be available for download, and this is actually in the download package. I didn't have it here, but just so that we could look at it. Okay, so let's just first explain what this is doing. Well, we're going to set this variable next is going to be equal to either the next image in this line of images, or if we're at the last image and this expression here evaluates to false, because what this is saying is that the next image in line, the length of it, the next returns an array. So if the length of the array is equal to 0, which would be false, then we're going to do this portion of the statement, which says we're going to go to the showing, which is one of these images, to the parent element, which is this wrap element, to its first child. which would be the very beginning one. So the only time this is going to evaluate to false is when we get to our fifth image or our last image, and then this portion will go on. Otherwise, if we're at say 2, then this section, just the next element is going to be, so then we go to 3. And this can be expressed with if else, just like I said. So if showing.next.length, which is this right here, if this expression results in a true condition, then showing.next. Else, we're going to go back to our parent container and get the first child. Pretty simple, but see how much cleaner that is? Just one line versus your if else. I know it takes a little bit getting used to because it looks different, but it's very, very much faster. So we're almost done. That's the bulk of it right there. Alright, so we've got our brace. We're closed off here. Just want to, let me tab all this over. Okay, we got our little note. We're tabbed over. Let's finish this bad boy up. We're almost done. So then what we need to do is fade these images in and out. So showing, we're going to fade out. Let's make it 800 milliseconds. That's how long it'll take it to fade it. And we're going to use a callback function, an anonymous callback function, to fade the next image in. So we'll take next dot fade in. We'll fade it in the same amount of time, 800. Then we need to add a class to that because it needs to be the one with the is showing class, so we can keep track of where we're at in the stack of pictures. So we'll add a class of is showing to this one. I know what you're saying. You're saying, well, but what about the class that already has the is showing? We're going to remove that in just a minute. Oh, I forgot my period. We've got to put a period here. Period is showing. Let's close this parenthesis here. Semicolon, closing brace, and then we're closing out our fade out. Now we're back to, with this closing parenthesis here, we're back to this element here, whatever this element is. Now we're going to remove the class of is showing from that one. Oop, period, forgot the period. Is showing. And closing. Alright, so if we run this now, it should run one time because we haven't set up a timer or anything, but this should run this should run one time and get us going. So here's let's refresh this and see what happens if it runs at all. Okay, well, let's see. Well, let's set up our timer here and see if I've made a mistake somewhere. Anyway, let's use set timeout. We'll use set timeout, and then we're going to call our function slideshow, and we'll call it every 2,500 seconds, which would be 2,500 milliseconds, which would be 2.5 seconds. Alright, now let's save this and let's see if it runs now. If it doesn't, I have to pause the video and see where I made a mistake. Yeah, I made a mistake somewhere, so bear with me. Okay, so this stuff here needs to be inside of this closing brace because it needs to be within our function of slideshow. So let's just Control X that and skip down a couple ways here. Control V this, and I'm gonna comment this time out because I'm pretty sure I'm right about this. Should run one time. Let's go check this real quick. Let's go look in the browser, refresh. It should run one time. Look at that, it works perfectly. Okay, now we'll just uncomment our timeout and we should be done. We'll save that. We'll go back over here and refresh. What do we got? Look at that. get back into Dreamweaver here. Okay, so made one other minor mistake here. Since we're not selecting an element with the class of is showing, we're adding this class. The periods that I put here, we didn't need. We're not selecting something with a is showing class, we're adding that class to it. So we'll remove those and save the file, and we can go back in here and see. Really shouldn't be doing tutorials so late. Make too many mistakes. Anyway, the source will be available. I'll put it in the explanation below the video for you to download, and hope you guys enjoyed.